Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September Training Tuesday. I'm excited to have Katherine Jaeger, our 4-H Outdoor Education Field Specialist, who's going to be talking to you a little bit about an introduction to outdoor education, some activities that you can do at the club level, and some other fun things. So I will let her take it away. Thanks, Katherine.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenae. Let me just pop my PowerPoint up so you guys can follow along real quick. All right. Can you see that now?
Yep, we can see it.
Thank you, Jenae. Okay, so as Jenae said, my name is Katherine Jaeger. I am the Youth Outdoor Education Field Specialist with SDSU Extension. I am based in Sioux Falls. So tonight we're going to talk some intro topics to outdoor ed, some easy ways to incorporate outdoor ed activities into your clubs, your informal education, whatever way it is you are engaging with youth. So a brief overview of what I'll talk about tonight. I'll kind of discuss what I call my big three programs. Those are the big three things that I serve or that I coordinate kind of from a statewide area. You've probably heard of at least one of them. And that way you can at least put a name and face together for that program. We'll do some quick get to know yous. I like to do those with youth when I'm programming with them. So I thought it would be fun to do tonight. And then I'll introduce some easy outdoor ed topics to incorporate into a club setting. But first, just a little bit of background about me. I am not from South Dakota. I moved here in 2016 and have worked with Extension ever since. I spent 1.5 years serving as the 4-H Youth Program Advisor in Lincoln County, and then transitioned to the Youth Outdoor Education Specialist in late 2017. So I've been in that role ever since. Prior to this, I spent about 5 years working as an outdoor educator, kind of across the country in a couple different camps, where I did everything from being a canoe guide to working with animals to writing curriculum on using technology in the outdoors. So all sorts of different things. So the big three programs that I work on kind of from a statewide level, the first would be our 4-H camps. It's obviously a big area in outdoor ed in South Dakota 4-H. This year we had to follow some facility guidelines in place, so we had some smaller camps than normal, but on a good year we have about 500 youth and about 70 to 80 volunteers. So thank you to any of you who have served in a volunteer capacity for any of our 4-H camps. And we host about 6 different sessions across the state. So that's our youth camps and our teen camps. Those all fall under me as the outdoor ed person. The next program that you might have heard of is Ethics SD. Ethics SD is a partnership with South Dakota 4-H and Extension, with South Dakota Game Fish and Parks, and with the South Dakota Trapping Association. And this came out of Governor Noem's Second Century Initiative that was launched, I believe, in 2018, where we were talking about pheasant hunting in the next century of South Dakota. And then that bounty program that Game Fish and Parks launched for the nest predator. What we discovered was that we weren't really educating youth on how to trap, what to do with the animals once you've harvested them, the history of trapping, any of that. So this partnership created a comprehensive fur bearer education program. It does include trapping, but it also includes the history of trapping in North America. It includes the ecology of the animals we're trapping and the animal identification, and then how to ethically and legally harvest that fur, and then how to put up that fur on the back end. Last year, we had 13 counties participate. We limit our counties and the number of youth simply because we provide all of the supplies through that partnership for the youth participating. So it is a lot of supplies to manage. They get all of the traps that they need for that program. Roughly in those 13 counties, we had about 120 to 150 total. We ask for about 10 per county. Occasionally, if they're siblings and can share traps, they'll double up. And then the last program is one that I am currently in the middle of launching a pilot year on, and that is Owls SD. This is a program we've adapted from another state, and it's outdoor wilderness and life skills. So it's a year-long program for our senior 4-H age youth that really want to dive into outdoor ed and natural resource skills and start to look at what that might look like as a career. So if you're familiar with the Ambassador program, where youth apply for a year-long term, it's similar in structure to that, although it is based on outdoor ed and natural resources and still on skill-based or skill learning for our youth. All right, I'm going to launch some polls. We are going to do some quick get to know yous. I like to do these with youth before I program with them, particularly in an outdoor ed setting where they might be a little bit uncomfortable with what we're about to do in a camp setting. They might not know anybody. So just some silly get to know yous, kind of similar to what a roll call question might be at camp, but we add fun twists onto them. So if you're able to, the first get to know you says, would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck? All right, looks like we got our participation there. Everybody who voted said one horse-sized duck. Man, I would go the opposite. I think 100 duck-sized horses. All right, we'll do another one. Would you rather have Cheeto dust on your fingers forever or have a popcorn kernel stuck at the back of your throat forever? All right. Looks like the Cheeto dust won there. I am also on team Cheeto dust. I would much prefer that. One more. Would you rather have the hiccups for the rest of your life or feel like you need to sneeze and not be able to? Ooh, we are split 50-50 there between the hiccups or needing to sneeze. I'm torn there too. I can't decide which one would be better there. So thank you, kind of silly questions, but like I said, I like to do these when I program with youth, particularly again in kind of that outdoor ed setting where they might be uncomfortable with something or might not know other people if they've come to a camp. They're a real easy way to get to know the youth and start to build connections. On each of our topics that we'll talk about today, I have pros and cons listed. It might not be the best to think about them as pros and cons. That was just an easy way for me to word them. It might be benefits of this program and things to consider in this program. So keep in mind, it might not be a pro or a con for this, but it is a great way to loosen up youth and a great way to build connections. A con or a thing to consider if you're going to do some get to know you questions. Some youth might be uncomfortable talking with a group, particularly if they don't know them. And then sometimes a question might bring up some hidden traumas or some hidden pasts of our youth, or maybe not so hidden, that we need to be mindful of. So as an example of that, here we go. I have a set of cards that I provide to my camp counselors and to some of the staff that come on camp. I have conversation questions and I have a bunch of laminated would you rather questions or just random conversation questions. And then some quick time filler games on the back end of this too. Some of these questions are very harmless. They're those would you rather questions we just did. But also included in some of these questions are something like, what's your favorite smell? While that might seem like a harmless question, sometimes for youth that could be, you know, a favorite pie that grandma used to make and maybe grandma just passed away. Or a question like what's the most injured you've ever been, where it might seem innocent. And for me, that's filled with great stories. But for some youth, you know, maybe somebody survived a car accident. And so that's not a question we want to ask. So if you know your youth, you can be really mindful of that. If you don't know your youth, trying to stay away from some of those more open-ended questions is probably a thing to consider there. Like I said, I do have these packets that I hand out to my counselors for 4-H camps. I also have these in Word documents. I'm happy to send either the documents or a full laminated set to anybody who would like them for use in their club. It's about 20 to 30 get to know you questions or conversation questions. And then I think I have about 10 to 12 quick time filler games for those times when you find yourself with 5 to 10 minutes to fill. So a quick game that doesn't really take a lot of equipment and prep work. I'm happy to send those to you if anybody would like those, just to kind of keep in your back pocket for your next club meeting. All right, We're going to transition now into some easy outdoor ed topics to incorporate into your club or the way in which you engage with youth. So one of my favorite topics to include is phenology. And phenology is a word that describes something we all probably do on a daily basis anyways. Phenology is the scientific study of cyclical and seasonal natural phenomenon, especially in relation to climate, plant, and animal life. So if you've ever looked out at a tree and noticed when its leaves change color, you've practiced phenology. In my backyard, I live in Sioux Falls. There's not a lot of trees in my neighborhood, but we have 3 trees in our backyard, which is pretty big for our neighborhood. And we have a silver maple that just last week started changing colors to red. And it's beautiful when it does that. But personally, I hate it because that means winter's coming. But I noticed that those leaves, particularly at the top of the tree, started changing to red last week. So I was observing that cyclical change that happens in my tree. Another great example of this is migratory animals. Particularly, again, I live in Sioux Falls. We have a great snow goose migration that comes over the eastern side of the state in the spring. We also start to see red-winged blackbirds coming back when spring is getting close. So again, those cyclical, seasonal, natural phenomenon that happen. So what are some ways you could incorporate this into your club or informal ed setting? If you're meeting at the same space, it is really easy to pick a tree and observe that every single time you meet. A little bit harder if your club moves locations every time you have a meeting, but it still can be done. Some pros or some benefits of incorporating phenology as an easy outdoor ed topic is it's very, very minimal equipment. You don't need anything to observe the trees in your backyard or a bush. If you would like to keep records of it, there is a online program called Nature's Notebook where you can enter observations. Otherwise, just pen and paper, writing down your observations, the date and what you notice about it is a really great way to keep those records as well. Another benefit is you can create a long-term data collection. So if you're starting to work on kind of a longer term project with youth, this is a great way to build that skill set and to build your observation skills over a period of time. And then it's really easy for all ages. Our Clover Buds and our senior 4-H members might have a different background and understanding of the science of why leaves change colors, or the science, why they change colors. They might have different language they can use to describe that, but they can all see that the colors are changing. And so they'll all be able to make that observation at the same time. So if you have a mixed age group, a very mixed age group, this one's really easy to do with all of those ages. Some cons or some things to think about. Again, ideally, you would use the same location and observe the same plant every time. And then if you are looking at being a little bit more scientific with this and doing some sort of citizen science program or entering your data into something like Nature's Notebook, that online phenology network, particularly around bud out time for our trees, so late spring in South Dakota or early spring in some places, when those buds start to come out, because that is so time sensitive, they do recommend kind of a more consistent monitoring schedule, which if your meeting location is somebody's house, you could task that house person with for those like 2 weeks around bud out time, just to note the correct date. I threw the link down there. It's the USA National Phenology Network. So that's that acronym you'll see in the link down there. Again, Nature's Notebook is a free program to use to record phenology, but you don't need that. You can just use pen and paper and record what you're seeing on a plant to bring this into any club setting. All right, moving on. Water is another really easy topic to bring outdoor ed into our club or informal education setting. Here in South Dakota, several years ago, a group of us went through a Water Rocks training, which is a program that was created by Iowa State University. Water Rocks is a really interesting program in that it combines the scientific study of water and of different water-related issues with the arts, and particularly music. So because of that, it targets, again, a wide range of people. We can do the activities with our older kids, but with our younger kids who might need a little bit more. That music, those songs that they have for each of the activities help bring that to life. In South Dakota, we also have 3 kits for water rocks that have all of the supplies for all of the activities in them. These kits are located around the state. There's one in Sioux Falls, one in Rapid City at, I believe, the Pennington County 4-H office, and one in Pierre at the South Dakota Discovery Center. I listed the activities here. Like I said, there are a wide range of topics, and they're short. The activities can take anywhere from like 15 to 25 minutes, kind of depending on the age group and how intense into the activity you want to go. One thing about the activities is there's not really a lesson built with them. There's not really a guideline in the kit with them. So several years ago, after this training, myself and one other colleague went through and wrote lessons. So if you're looking for more of a structured lesson for an informal setting or for your club setting, that's more of 45, 50 minutes, has some background understanding, has the activity, has a wrap up all nicely packaged. We wrote those lessons. Some of them incorporate one of the activities, some of them incorporate 2 of the activities, just kind of depending. So those are in place. I think next month you'll be hearing from a colleague of mine who's been working on a way to store our curriculum on the website. So I'll let her talk about that. So for the time being, any of these lessons can be accessed simply by emailing me, and I will happily send you all the PDFs of them. And then, like I said, we have the 3 kits around the state with all of the supplies ready to go, one in Sioux Falls, one in Pierre, one in Rapid City. One of the things, though, I'm really mindful of is South Dakota is quite large, and 3 kits in 3 locations is not always accessible to people. So some things we can do to help change that is I'm always thinking of ways that we can replicate these activities or these lessons without needing the kit of supplies. So one of the lessons we talk about is pollutants. And in the Water Rocks kit, they use this big board, and then each youth gets a piece of the board and they draw their home, like a river home or a lake home on there, what their dream lake home would entail. And then as you go through it, you have them pop those up along the river, and we start to think about what kind of pollutants from their lake home could end up in the river. That's great. That's not always easy to get if you don't live near one of those cities, or you might think to do this last minute and not have time to go to one of those cities anyways. So a really easy way to do that would just be to have the youth draw their lake home on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. They can spend some time coloring it in if they want. And then instead of having the big river image up there and starting to think about the pollution, I have a bowl from the Dollar Tree that I colored a river in, and I have tributaries and streams coming down into. As my youth are describing their lake homes, what I could do then is pop some food coloring around the rim of my bowl, representing different types of pollutants. So I might do like red pollutants or red food coloring for dog waste if they have a dog at their lake home. And I might use blue for oil and gas if they've talked about having cars or boats, because inevitably oil or gas leaks or drips a little bit. And then with just a spray bottle or a spritz of the hand, if I can simulate a rainstorm, and we can start to see where that water goes. So a real easy, low budget way to replicate some of the activities without needing to get the actual activity. So again, Water Rocks, what would be some pros or some benefits of this program? The activities themselves don't have guidelines, but there are lessons put together with those activities included. There are songs that go with the activities. Those are available on the Water Rocks website, which is just waterrocks.org. It's pretty easy. And so that makes it great for clover buds if you're working with a lot of younger youth. And then there's a wide range of topics. Some cons or some things to consider. The activities do require equipment. I'm happy to brainstorm ideas if you aren't able to get to one of those kits for the equipment. We're also happy to coordinate the transport of kits around the state. We've gotten quite good at that, at utilizing our network. And then, like I said, the activities themselves don't come with guidelines. So unless you're really good at figuring things out, it's a little bit confusing to just get the kit. And that's a downfall of Water Rocks there. Some other easy ways to incorporate water into easy outdoor ed programming in a club or informal setting. I'm a huge fan of macroinvertebrate studies, which is where we look at bugs that live in water. I recognize that not every place has water available. I have done this workshop with youth at lakes and rivers. I have done it in sloughs. I've done it in little ponds next to school. I have also run this workshop in a park in Sioux Falls that had no water, but I live in a neighborhood that has a slough going through it. And so I collected a 5-gallon bucket of water and critters, transported it across town, ran this workshop, and then brought all the critters back to the backyard afterwards. So they can be put in a bucket and transported too. So most places have a location within, a few miles you can transport from and bring the creatures back to afterwards. That one's a fun one for youth to really get their hands on things and start to identify. You as an instructor don't need to know how to identify any of them. I do have some dichotomous keys where the youth can kind of follow lines and start to identify, or it's just fun to look and see what they look like and not even go into the identification piece. Like I said, some Enviroscape or landscape modeling. So that would be the same as looking at kind of those lake houses and seeing how our land management decisions and what we choose to put on our dream piece of land would impact the waterways near us. That can easily be done with pieces of paper and a bowl instead of any sort of fancy setup. And then water quality sampling. You can find kits really cheap. A lot of schools have them. Extension offices have some in some locations. I have some in Sioux Falls I'm happy to send out. But water quality testing is a great way to bring really easy outdoor ed and natural resource programming to camp or to clubs. The brain's on camp apparently still. All right, switching topics a little bit. Another easy outdoor ed topic to incorporate could be weather. Here in South Dakota, we partnered with a few other states. I think it was Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and either Utah or Idaho. I should know this and I don't. But we partnered with them several years ago to write the 4-H Weather and Climate Youth Learning Lab. This is a national 4-H peer-reviewed curriculum. It's available for free for download on the 4-H Mall, so shop4h.org. I also have a PDF I can happily send out to anybody. What's really great about this is there are 9 lessons. They all tie together in that they all focus on weather or climate, but they all can also stand alone. So if you just want to do one lesson on weather and climate, any one of those 9 lessons would be a great fit for that. Some benefits of this program, like I said, there are 9 complete lessons, so they come to you nicely packaged. And that leader's guide, again, is available for a free download, or shoot me an email and I will send you the PDF. They do also cover a wide range of topics, so anything your club has interest in regarding weather and climate can probably be found in there. Some cons, these are a little bit more equipment heavy. While they can be adapted to whatever equipment you may have available for you, it's a little bit harder with these. We do have 2 kits in the state of South Dakota, one in Sioux Falls and one in Rapid, with all of the supplies for all 9 lessons in there. And then because of the topic area, some of these lessons lean a little bit more heavily towards older youth. So if your club is a group of middle school or young high school, this might be a really good fit. If your club is a group of clover buds, these lessons might be a little bit too intense for them. Not to say they can't be adapted or included, just being a little bit more mindful that you'll have to put a little bit more work on the front end for those. All right, so with that, I think I have talked enough, but I have a question for those of you on the call. Are there any programs or topics relating to outdoor ed or natural resources that your club has incorporated, or you currently need help with brainstorming some ideas for ways to incorporate it? And then of course, I'll leave it open to any questions beyond that.